Well, let's have some fun with this because last night CNN brought on Tulsi Gabbard for a one-on-one talk. And let me get my biases out of the way right now. I'm starting to really like Tulsi Gabbard a lot. You know, I got to be honest. And it's clear to me that Kamala Harris is a criminal asshole. But that being said, let's take a look at how CNN handles this one-on-one interview or one-on-one with. Now remember, this is a news reporter. This is a news caster, a news reporter, and somebody who hosted the debates the other night, I believe, with Tulsi Gabbard. And that's the weird thing is that's what it is. It's Chris Cuomo, and let's just sit and listen to how news has changed since I was a kid in the 90s and the 80s and most of the 2000s.
Herself. Let's bring in the Hawaii Congresswoman. Good to have you on Primetime.
Aloha, Chris. Good to talk to you.
Good to see you. So I want to talk to you about how you took and why you seemed obviously dissatisfied with the senator's answers last night, what you think the state of play is after last night for you and the other Democrats. But I want to clear something up. You need to acknowledge that Bashar al-Assad is a murderous despot, and
let's have you come on and we'll talk about all these things. But first, we need to clear something up. You need to blah, 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 blah.
The senator's answers last night, what you think the state of play is.
Watch him just all of a sudden tell her what she needs to do.
After last night for you and the other Democrats, but I want to clear something up. You need to acknowledge that Bashar al-Assad is a murderous despot, and you can still make your argument that the United States has no business risking blood and treasure in places where it should not be. I don't understand why you didn't give that answer last night.
What the hell? You need to come and do this. You need to do this. What you need to do, Chris Cuomo, is shut the fuck up and go back to being a fucking reporter who works at CNN for the news station. News station. Is that news saying you need to come out and say this about Assad? You need to do it. What you need to do is this. What you need to do is that. Does that sound like news to you? Does that sound like the news? The beginning of an interview, a one-on-one, you come out and you tell the candidate what they need to do? How fucking whacked out bizarre is this fucking comment from Chris Cuomo?
Is a murderous despot, and you can still make to acknowledge.
This would be like if we brought a candidate on who was like, and he was like, you need to come out and talk about how Saddam Hussein was one of the most evil dictators in the world. I'm telling you right now, you need to do it.
That Bashar al-Assad.
Think about how dangerous this is. A news station that controls all this stuff in the country, that controls a narrative to an entire population of zombies who may watch them, similar to Fox News and how they attempt to control the right. The difference is, there's about 8 left-wing news medias. There's Fox News, a right-wing one. But they come out and they tell you what you need to do, according to them, apparently.
Is a murderous despot. And you can still make your argument that the United States has no business risking blood and treasure in places where it should not be.
Now, a real news reporter would say this. Many people agree with you on your stances with how you handle Assad and your foreign war policy. But there are many that are critical of how you are basically many that criticize you for taking it easy on Assad, and that's why many people believe that you side with him and are worried that you would actually side with dictators or that you don't denounce certain dictators like Assad. What would your response to that be? Something like that. I'm not a news reporter, but that's something along the lines of explaining the facts that are out there and then asking the candidate to refute them or explain what their position is. Not to say, you need to do this.
I want to talk to you about how you took and why you seemed obviously dissatisfied with the senator's answers last night, what you think the state of play is after last night for you and the other Democrats. But I want to clear something up.
He wants to clear something up.
You need to acknowledge that Bashar al-Assad...
It's bizarre. I don't know. Anyway, let's go forward a little bit.
Regime change war, outspoken on this issue of ending these wasteful regime change wars is because I have seen firsthand this high human cost of war and the impact that it has on my fellow brothers and sisters in uniform. You know, Chris, I respect you because you've spent a lot of time throughout your career shining a light on the challenges that veterans face when they come home. I will do anything and everything that I possibly can to stop sending our men and women in uniform into harm's way, fighting in these wasteful counter...
Look at how bloodthirsty he is. Look at how bloodthirsty he is. He can't stand this right now. He's freaking the fuck out because she's giving an answer that's like, listen, you know, Assad's not a good guy, but I will do anything, even if it means meeting with him, even if it means meeting with a guy who blows up fucking schools or whatever he does, whatever he's accused of doing. Sometimes maybe he does it, sometimes it's a false flag, whatever. But I will meet with him at any cost to try to keep our troops from going over there and wasting our resources and lives over this guy like we did with Saddam Hussein. And look at Cuomo's face. He's like, oh, God, but I want to kill people so bad. I want to fucking kill people so bad. I want murder. I want death. I want dead babies and military soldiers. I want 18-year-olds signing up for the military in America. Oh, my God, I can't stand it. I want murder. I want to kill Assad. Come on, I want to go to Syria. I want to have a war again. I want to have a war again. That's what's going on in Cuomo's head right now.
Productive wars.
The notion deserves nothing but respect, Congresswoman. Deserves nothing but respect. I'm not disputing that. I think it's a legitimate claim. But here's what I'm asking.
Even if
you put yourself in a hole, though,
let me just finish. Let me finish.
Go ahead. Finish your point.
You put yourself in a hole, but I want to put a whole bunch of Americans in a hole. So let's go back to war. Rawr!
Finish this point,
please.
Because it's central to the question that you're asking.
I guess Cuomo wants to go overthrow Assad and spend hundreds of years over there trying to figure out how to overthrow the terrorists and the government and how to fix that regime now after what we did to Iraq and Afghanistan and everywhere else that we've done stuff and destabilized areas that we can never leave now because it's just it just goes on and on. The warmongering goes on and on from everybody.
I will never apologize to anyone for doing all that I can to prevent more of my brothers and sisters in uniform from being sent into harm's way to fight in these wasteful, counterproductive regime change wars, even if it means meeting with a brutal dictator focused on that objective, keeping the American people safe, making sure my brothers and sisters in uniform are honored by only being sent on missions that are worthy of their sacrifice. And
imagine that. She only wants to go to war if it's absolutely necessary for a real reason and not for a lie. Imagine that.
Making it so that we stop wasting trillions of our taxpayer dollars on more of these wasteful wars when they are so needed right here at home to address the essential and urgent needs of people in our communities, people like those here in Detroit.
I take issue with none of that. None of it. Do not make any other assumption about anything.
What is he talking about? He said you need to condemn and all these other things and whatever.
Talk about one specific thing. All of that is completely valid and does not need any benefit to Bashar al-Assad. On your website, I don't understand why you have information on there that questions the notion that Assad is responsible for things that the U.S. intel and the United Nations intel believe he's responsible for. You don't need to defend him to make your argument. I don't understand why you do.
I've never defended Assad.
The stuff on the website questions the legitimacy of his connection to the attacks.
What you're referring to are cynicisms, a skepticism that I have expressed.
He's like, you're not allowed to think. Oh, you're not allowed to think, Tulsi. Tulsi, you can't think, bro. Let me tell you something, Tulsi. You better believe everything the government says. You better believe everything I say, everything the government says. And if you don't believe that, how dare you have that on your website? Because the government never lies. The government never lies about drinking water in Flint, Michigan, and everything else that they've ever lied about. Oh, they never lie about it. How dare you have skepticism and question that some of the things are real or not real on the website? You better believe everything the government says to you about Assad and about anything anybody else does anywhere, anytime, any place. You better believe it. What's her answer to this?
Because I've served in a war that was caused by people who lied to us.
Oh!
Yes.
Who lied to the American people.
Understood.
Who presented false evidence.
Understood. Oh, is that really understood? Why'd you ask the question then?
That members of Congress and U.S. senators believed and voted for a war that...
Remember 9/11? Remember 9/11? Remember when George Bush said they have weapons of mass destruction? This big, massive threat in Iraq that there wasn't really at all? The bigger threat would be Iran or something, and we went to Iraq. Remember that lie? Oh, I wonder why we'd question things, Chris Cuomo, you fucking idiot.
That resulted in the loss of lives of over 4,000 of my brothers and sisters in uniform. The very first thing I did every single day when I served in Iraq in that field medical unit during the height of that war in 2005 was go through a list name by name of every American casualty and injury that had occurred in the previous 24 hours. I know the cost of war in a way that none of those other people on that stage last night can understand. So yes, I will always ask the tough questions. I will ask for the evidence. And as we're seeing, evidence is constantly coming through. It's our responsibility as lawmakers and as leaders in this country to
Wait till you find out about the towers.
make sure that our U.S. military is not being activated and deployed to go to war unless we are certain, A, that it serves the best interests of the American people, and B, that that action will actually have a positive impact.
That's
so
why we
the
argue
questions
on this
I'm
show
raising
all
are
the
based
time.
on this
Well,
experience
I
that
would-
I've had
I hear
of
you.
making
I would argue
sure
that
that
what's
we are
on the
doing the
website
right thing.
isn't just raising questions, it's speculating in a way that isn't based by fact. But we've discussed that, and I don't want to spend all the time on it. And we argue on this show all the time.
You brought it up.
Let me just point you to two
Congress
quick
needs to have
things.
more
Let
power
me
on
just point
military-
Everything this guy brings up, he then acts like he's not the one that wants to bring it up. He's like, let me bring this up. He started the fucking thing with, let me tell you what you need to do. He literally said that. Here's what you need to do. That's how he started it. Then she told him to piss off. Then he went, oh, yeah, you're right. But what I really brought you here for was this. And then she answered that. And he goes, oh, yeah, well, but here's the one thing I have. Your website, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I know that. But,
two
action, not
quick
less.
things on that.
malfunction.
Go ahead.
Can I point you to two quick things on
Absolutely.
that? There was a report that was recently sent out from the OPCW, the UN's organization responsible for investigating incidents of chemical weapons attacks, that brings into light a lot of different evidence that wasn't previously reported. And secondly, there's a professor from MIT who has also been an expert in missile attacks and chemical weapons, who's also shed a lot of light on this. What I'm saying is
they've raised
we've
some
got to
questions
examine
about
all
what
of
the
the
dynamic
evidence.
is there. Nobody's exonerating Assad. Let me ask
You don't know 100%, you dumb diphead. Anyway, this is the type of stuff that goes on apparently at CNN. The whole reason I made this video today, though, started with how this interview one-on-one started. You know, this show isn't called like the hot seat or something like that, or like the grilling seat or exposed something. It's like CNN one-on-one. Is this really a one-on-one, or is this I'm going to tell you now? Very bizarre, especially the way that this thing started.
the senator's answers last night, what you think the state of play is after last night for you and the other Democrats, but I want to clear something up. You need to acknowledge that Bashar al-Assad is a murderous despot.
That's, and again, like we said, these people that work at CNN and many news corporations around the world, around the country mostly, want murder. They want war at this point. They really want war. And so many of the politicians in the country want war. They want you to kill and war and all these things. They were so angry recently when what was it, the drone or something that Trump shot down? He shot that drone down instead of sending an attack that would have killed people. It's like they wanted that so bad, and it's very strange. There's a pattern going on here, and I want people to be aware of that there's like a pattern of just war, and murder that these people really want. They can't stand it. They want murder and war so bad. They're at the point where, I almost feel like they would stage something and say Assad did it. Even if Assad is a murderous dictating scumbag, I could totally see at this point one of the country's mystery corporations or, CIA types blowing up like a school or something, just like in a false flag now to get us to go to war, because they're just clearly itching for the war so badly. And that's why Tulsi Gabbard isn't liked, because she's like, I question things. It's like, this guy is so amped up, it's crazy. And she's like, well, I'm going to question things and make sure everything is, I'm not going to just bash the button. You know what I mean? These are the people that are like, oh my God, this person or that person's going to have their finger on the button. Well, thank God Chris Cuomo doesn't have his finger on the button, because not only would the fucking button have been pushed, but it would be covered in Chris Cuomo's cum. My name is Joe Cronin, and this is Corrupted Nation. And we don't talk a lot of politics like this normally, but this was just so funny, I had to bring it up. Now, it doesn't matter what you believe in and who you like. You may be in favor of you may be in favor of Trump or Tulsi Gabbard or Kamala Harris, or who I think she's crazy, but you may like her. Bernie Sanders, who knows who you like or who you're going to vote for. But the fact of the matter is, I feel it's my job to laugh at everybody and make fun of all this bullshit. And it's your job to decide who you want to vote for, and it's none of my business. And I don't want to be here trying to grill people about what they need to do. But even if I did, I'm not the news. I am just shocked by the behavior of the news compared to when we were kids, and we used to see investigative journalism actually happen. But now, investigative journalists are people that are hired way at the bottom to sneakily do all these things. And if they get something good that the news can bend and use against somebody, they use it. But if it's just a story that's going to support the other side, then they wash it away and they don't talk about it. But years and years ago, no matter what, whatever it supported, whether it was good or bad for either side or any candidate, it wouldn't matter. If it was exposing something that needed to be exposed, the media would expose it. Now it's a sort of, we got to get them type of thing, and it's very, very strange. What do you guys think about this? Is this not a big deal? Am I making a big deal out of this? Does this happen all the time? Am I just going overboard? Do you think Chris Cuomo's right? Do you think Tulsi Gabbard's right? Do you think Kamala Harris is right? Do you think he never really asked her about her at this point yet, which was the whole point. I think at the end he does, and then they get that clip that they wanted from her. It was all about clickbait by asking those tough questions or whatever or told her what to say, basically. And then at the very end, ask her about the Kamala thing, and then they can get their little headline in there with those two fighting with each other, I suppose. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But one thing's for sure. There's jizz on the button and maybe jizz on the weapons and knives at Chris Cuomo's house. I'm going to call him Cross-Eyed Cuomo because he looks crazy. All right, leave in the comments down below, and we'll see you in the next video.
This is Corrupted. This is Corrupted Nation with Joe Cronin.